Getting this video made has been an absolute nightmare. See, I actually made this entire video on Tuesday, on my birthday, because it was meant to be this quick little video made on my birthday, got it out there. No, that didn't work out because a number of reasons. One was that the audio didn't fucking record, so that was a problem. I had the whole video done, but the audio didn't record, so I wasn't going to do it again that same day because my throat was knackered from doing that recording as well as spending time with my family because it was my birthday. And the reason Injustice has taken so long to get made is because the way I normally make a roster duster is I'll find someone else's tier list on Tier Maker and use that, make some tweaks to it to set up the roster duster structure and go ahead. Injustice did not have one that had every character. See, you might not even recognize some of these characters as being in Injustice. See, the thing is that I found lists that have either all the characters from 1 and 2 but none of the Premier skins, or all the characters from 2 including the Premier skins but nobody from 1. So I had to make one myself that is all the characters from Injustice 1, 2, the Premier skins, and the mobile exclusive characters like Jessica Cruz and Cassandra Cain. And you may look at this and think the characters here seem to be logically ordered to some extent, but then you look over here, why is Joker the first one? Why are all the Batman villains ahead of the heroes? I would like to ask this question too, Tier Maker. I went to the effort of making all these portraits for the characters, naming them in such a way where they would all be put into the thing in order, and it put the villains in first. And even though I can change this, it won't let me change the order of the characters. You can't remove them once they've been put in, as far as I can tell. It's fucking bullshit. And you may wonder why Atom is down here on his own after the guest characters. The reason for that is I forgot to put him in the first time, so I had to use Sub-Zero as a substitute. So I suppose, in a way, the added lore and the facts that I've actually got Atom in this version does make this version technically better than the original version of the video. Not by much. So as you can see, I've got a guest area. I didn't have this originally. I just put the guest characters in TBA, because what else was I supposed to do? The approach I'm going to take with this one is that, as you can see, some characters are Premier skins, or they have their movesets in the mobile version based on the existing character. So both Cassandra Cain and Kate Kane have their movesets based on Barbara Gordon, for example. And then you got the 4 Flashes. I'm setting myself a rule that for this version of Injustice 3, only one character can have any given moveset. So I have to go through the characters that share movesets and pick just one of them. They get to stick around, the other has to go. And in a way that does make things a bit easier, because then I've got more characters who can just automatically dump in Erase Forever. I could put them in their own category as Premier skins, but I'm not going to do that, because I can't be asked. I've already made this, to set this up as it is, I'm not changing it. So let's go through the Premier skins. Batman. Bruce Wayne or Terry McGinnis? Well, considering the story is all about Bruce, you have to put Bruce in. If this was going to be Injustice 4 or something after the storyline is concluded, if Injustice were going to move on from the Civil War shit and do something new, I wouldn't mind putting Terry in there. But with the situation being what it is now, where we need to have a proper conclusion to this storyline, Bruce has to stick around. And for that same reason, Clark has to stick around, meaning Hank Henshaw and Bizarro have to go, unfortunately. Kara, we have one version of Kara. It can be Supergirl or Power Girl. It makes sense to be Supergirl. I like Power Girl more than Supergirl generally, but it makes more sense for Supergirl to stay as Supergirl or become Superwoman, because the whole thing with her final fight with Clark at the end of Injustice 2 is the symbol of the House of L, the S-Shield, has become a symbol of fear, and she wants it to be a symbol of hope again. So if she was going to just discard that entirely, that would just completely defeat the point. Now, this is not the kind of thing I'd expect to see actually brought up in Injustice 3. Because Injustice's storytelling is generally really shit. So I wouldn't expect any interesting little character details like that to slip through the cracks. Next, we have to decide with the Bat Ladies. Some of you might be looking at that and thinking, Arkham Knight, isn't he just a Red Hood, Premier skin type knockoff character? I've not played as Red Hood in the Injustice mobile game, but since he was in the Injustice 1 mobile game before Red Hood was added to Injustice 2, I assume he has his own unique moveset. So he does have a shot of actually making it in. You might say, well, it's still just Jason Todd, right? Well, if you've watched my Wasted Potential on the Arkham Knight game, I briefly discussed the comic version that was recently introduced at the end, and how it's a completely separate character and is worse than the game version. It's worse than the version where he's just Jason Todd as more of an edgelord piece of shit. So there's a chance this one could make it in. So for now, we're going to focus on the Bat Ladies. We've got Barbara Gordon, Cassandra Cain, and Kate Kane. Now, a bit of explanation for those who aren't familiar with the Injustice comics. Barbara is still active as Batgirl by the time of Injustice 2. Yeah, she is. During around year 3 or 4 of the comic, she gets a spinal implant or something that fixes her back, like in the New 52. So she's Batgirl around the time of the game. And the Ground Zero comic that focused on Harley during the game actually showed what Barbara was doing during the game. And she's basically just sitting around waiting for orders from Bruce. It's fucking idiotic. Kate, meanwhile, is dead. She was vaporized by Superman right at the end of the Injustice 1 comic when she sacrificed herself to bring over the Prime Universe heroes. Now, since there is no body, it is possible that she simply swapped universes. That is something they could do, although I would expect NetherRealm to just say, well, we've not had Batwoman in the games and we've not referenced the fact she's dead. I mean, the only reason they had to come up with excuses for Joker and Green Arrow was because they had explicitly said they were dead in the game, but with Batwoman they never referenced her. Therefore, they could just put her straight in. Or they could put Cassandra in. Personally, I prefer Cassandra over Barbara, so I'm going to put Barbara in Erase Forever. I would sooner see Barbara get something done with her in the comic, but I mean, it does make sense to have Barbara stick around since she actually is established in the comics already and doesn't need to have some bullshit excuse for why she's still alive. But at the same time, I'm just not that fond of Barbara Gordon as Batgirl. She's way better as Oracle. I suppose she could just have the implant removed and become Oracle again, but then people who only play the games would be questioning, where the fuck has she been all this time? So that just leaves us with... I'm going to move Damien down here so I can keep the two together. So we have a choice of either a new Batgirl or bringing in Batwoman. I imagine that they would bring in Kate as Batwoman, partly because of the CW show. I mean, that's the reason she's in the game. This is the CW show version, when they put in a bunch of CW skins and a few exclusive characters. But at the same time, you have Cassandra Cain, who I think might be generally more popular than Kate, even if only because she has about 5 or 6 more years of history than Kate had. I think people would prefer to have Cass in there, but since she's no longer Batgirl in the current continuity, I think it's more likely that if she was added, she would be put in as Orphan instead. Me personally, I do prefer Kate just a little more, so I'm going to put Kate in there and put Cass here, but I'm going to say this identity for these two is just going to be erased and they can come back in other identities. I'm not going to make that excuse for many characters. You could do more with them in the other personas, you know, Oracle and Orphan. So next we move on to the Green Lanterns, and we have 3. Now John Stewart is dead, which is a good enough reason for him to be in Erase Forever. Of course, you can bullshit your way to have John Stewart come back, but the fact of the matter is, me personally, I'm not really attached to John Stewart. I didn't watch a whole lot of Justice League, the cartoon, so for me, Green Lantern is Hal Jordan. Now, Jessica Cruz is alright, but in the same way that Bruce Wayne is the Batman that has the story going on, and Clark is the Superman with the story going on, Hal is the Green Lantern with the story going on. He's got his redemption going. It just makes sense to keep him around. Jessica could be added in a future game, but I think you have to keep Hal at least for now. Maybe he dies in the 3rd game and gets succeeded. I'm kind of surprised they didn't just replace Hal in Injustice 2. Maybe make him a premier skin for... Kyle's dead in the comic. But they could have introduced Jessica and had Hal be there as a premier skin for her, show up in the story as a mentor or something. No, there's options. Just going to move Grundy down here so we can get the 4 Flashes together. Now, I am willing to make one little concession here. Because there are 4 of them, I'm going to say that the Flash, you can have 2 of them. Barry is instantly in there because, of course, he is the one who has the ongoing story, like with Hal. Jay, I like you, but unfortunately, I think of the 3 other Flashes, you're the one with the least potential. See, I did say that Wally died in the comic. That was actually a mistake. It was actually Bart Allen, who was Kid Flash, who died. Wally just doesn't seem to exist in Injustice yet, other than the mobile game. But, you know, there's room for that to happen. He could become the new Flash for Injustice 4 or something if something happens to Barry. I mean, let's be honest, they're probably going to do some Crisis event for the Injustice 3 storyline, so having Barry die similar to how he died in the original Crisis comic, which is probably what we're going to do with the CW version of Crisis as well, it just makes sense. But then you have Eobard Thawne, who is the villainous Flash, the reverse Flash. Obviously, we're going to need some villains, so I'm going to leave these 2 for now. I'm going to put them aside. Oh, I forgot. I forgot to put Hellboy over here. What was I saying? Oh yeah, I'm going to leave the 2 Flashes here for now because I need to decide based on how many villains we have left by the end. Because you don't want to just overload with heroes, because that's a problem that a lot of superhero games end up having. You want to have a good variety of villains, and having an evil speedster makes sense. So we're going to leave that for now and see what we've got left later. Now we have Captain Cold and Mr. Freeze. I like Mr. Freeze more, but one rule I did put into place for myself was that I'm going to have a limit on the number of Batman characters, because I have criticised Injustice for just how many Batman characters they throw in. And this was something that did cause some trouble the first time, was, as you can see, there's a lot of Batman characters. I mean, before I started erasing these characters, we were already on like, what, the third space of the second row? It's a lot, so we need to cut down a lot of these. So I ended up with about 5 or so. So in some cases, you know, like you might find a character who is just absolutely worthless, not even worth giving the time of day, and they could just go right into erase forever. Unfortunately, or perhaps fortunately, depending on your point of view, we don't have any characters like that. There aren't any Batman characters who are in Injustice that you can just immediately say, this character is shit and worthless, get rid. So that does make my job a little harder, because there's nobody like that. There are no characters that can just erase forever. Everyone needs to be carefully considered. I mean, I think the easiest one to erase that isn't just a clone would be Killer Croc, because Croc, I believe he does have his own distinct moveset, but you do have the issue that at the end of the day, all Croc really is just a big muscle man. And we've kind of already got that with Solomon Grundy. I'm not that big a fan of Grundy myself, but he's not a Batman character. By putting him in the roster and getting rid of Croc, we do have more room for extra Batman characters, which is going to be really useful later on when I get to the nitty-gritty of which ones should stay and which ones shouldn't. Plus, Croc actually has an excuse to be gone, because in the comic, he married Orca, and they've gone off to have their little baby because she got pregnant. So you have a killer whale woman who got pregnant by a crocodile man. And you know what? That's the most wholesome thing Injustice ever did. Then we have the 2 Canaries. Now, from what I've read, White Canary is not actually a clone of Black Canary. The only move they have in common is the super move and maybe a special or 2. I'm going to assume that Sarah bases her moveset more on Dick Grayson's Nightwing moveset, because she has the same type of weapon. So if she's not an automatic erase, she gets to stick around for now. Then we have Cyborg and Grid. Well, Grid is worthless. Get rid of him instantly. And we also have Cheetah and Vixen. I get why Vixen was put in as a premier skin for Cheetah. It makes sense, but that does limit Vixen a bit too much in terms of what she's capable of. I think Vixen might be a bit more iconic than Cheetah, if only because of, you know, the CW shows where she had her own little cartoon project, as well as having another Vixen on Legends of Tomorrow. Plus, she was quite notable in Justice League Unlimited, from what I understand. While Cheetah, you know, she's been around for a while, but she's not really been all that prominent in media outside of, like, Young Justice until the upcoming Wonder Woman 84. So I think it makes sense to keep her around rather than Vixen. Maybe Vixen could get a completely fresh moveset in the future, but I think it's better to keep Cheetah around, partly because, well, she is one of Wonder Woman's most noteworthy villains, and again, just because she's one of Wonder Woman's noteworthy villains doesn't mean she's all that noteworthy as a character, which is kind of sad. But I do think that Cheetah's pretty much guaranteed to make it into Injustice 3, if only because of the movie, but I'm going to keep her as well. One other thing I'm going to have to do is look at some characters who are similar, but don't have the same moveset. For example, Black Lightning's moveset is based on Raiden from Mortal Kombat, because he's the premier skin for Raiden. Then we have Static, who was in the mobile game, so obviously his moveset is more distinct. We don't need 2 Lightning users, it's best to get rid of one of these 2. There are good reasons to remove either one of them. Black Lightning, his moveset is Raiden's, so it makes sense that Static is probably more distinct, so it makes sense to keep him around. But at the same time, I understand that Static was supposed to be in Injustice 1 or 2, but didn't make the roster because of rights issues, because I think DC only licenses Static and doesn't actually own him, so that would cause problems. I mean, Static could technically be included as a guest fighter. You know, if NetherRealm for Injustice 3 decided to set aside some slots and say, here's one of our guest character slots, we're going to put Static in there, you know what? That'd be great, and somewhat self-aware. But again, the rights thing just makes me think that Black Lightning would be better to keep around. Tweak his moveset, make it more distinct from Raiden, probably borrow some moves from Static. But if you're going to keep one of the Lightning users, it makes sense for it to be the one that DC actually fully owns and will never have problems putting into the game. So you go with that. And I'll try trimming some Batman characters. There's quite a few. Well, Arkham Knights would be quite similar to Red Hood anyway. And while I'm sure that there is an argument to be made that it doesn't have to be Jason, it doesn't have to be Astrid Arkham, it could be an entirely new take on the Arkham Knight. One that's someone like Hush, someone that makes sense, someone that's cool. But I don't trust NetherRealm to be the ones to do that. I don't trust NetherRealm to be the ones to set the precedent for a cool version of the Arkham Knight, you know what I mean? So, he gone. Harley is pretty much guaranteed to be in, and I wouldn't be surprised if she just straight up has the Cassie Quinn costume as her look for Injustice 3. Personally, I think the overdone appearances of Harley Quinn is really obnoxious. I'm kind of sick of her at this point, same with Batman and Joker. But the thing is, Harley at least has a personality, unlike Bruce and Joker. Those two are very one note. They are archetypes at this point, if anything. But I would like to see Harley's war crimes be addressed, because it's a weird thing that you don't really think about with Injustice, but it really is true. Harley helped to nuke Metropolis. The blood of all those dead people are on her hands too. And the only person who actually holds her accountable for this is Martha Kent. Because she's like, oh yeah, Batman and friends, come on in. Not you, Harley. Get out. So I'm going to keep Harley around in the hopes that they can do something with her rather than just having her be this Quan Chi-esque karma Houdini who just never gets what's coming to her because she helped to kill millions of people. You know, it's like how in the movie universe it's stated explicitly that she helped to murder Robin, and yet the murderous Batman never tried to kill her, he just fucking punched her in the face and saved her life when she was gonna drown in the car. Batman's moral code is unrealistic, man. That's why when he murders random people, he lets the person who killed Robin go. God, Zack Snyder's a fucking moron. I have looked at this, of course, from the perspective of what is realistic. Of course, Wonder Woman's going to be in there. Well, I'd rather Diana just get fucking ganked in the first 10 minutes and be replaced by Nubia or Donna Troy or something. It's not going to happen. And so I'm trying to keep that in mind, what characters are realistic to keep around. But at the same time, get out. I'm done with the Joker. I'm just sick of seeing him everywhere. He's not even that good a character, to be honest. And since he's already dead, we have a convenient excuse to not keep him around. I mean, all they could do with him, they put him on the fucking roster of the second game, and all they could think to do with him was have Harley Quinn fight him in a fear toxin hallucination one time. No one else has that, not even Superman, or Wonder Woman, or Batman. You know, something interesting you could have done there, but no. Fuck it. Why bother? So I'm going to put the TBA for now. Well, actually, let's just make a quick reshuffle. The Bat category for all the Batman characters, because again I'm trying to limit how many I've got, so it's easy to keep track of that if I make it its own category. So I'd like to keep Catwoman and Robin. That only makes sense. Now granted there are a lot of Batman characters. I'm going to say I make it 7 because it is difficult to cut that many characters. I'm going to have no more than 7. So Joker's gone, so we need to have a primary Batman villain, and I think Scarecrow is a good choice. Granted, I don't think Scarecrow has been well utilised in a video game since Arkham Asylum, but they had Robert fucking England as Scarecrow, and they had some cool ideas with him, and he's a convenient way to justify extra fights. I mean, not just your character gets doused with fear toxin. How weird is that? He douses Harley Quinn and Wonder Woman with fear toxin, and they both fight him off, but only Harley actually fights a hallucination. Even though Superman appears as a hallucination for Wonder Woman, she doesn't fight him. She just stabs him and then fights Scarecrow. That's weird, right? And you don't even need to use it as an excuse for your character to be doused. Like, if you imagine the scene where Catwoman and Cyborg are confronted by Poison Ivy and she uses pheromones to turn Harley against them, it could just as easily be Harley gets doused with fear toxin and she thinks Catwoman or Cyborg is the Joker. You don't see it from that perspective, or maybe you do for the fight, which could be funny. Using Joker's model but Catwoman's moveset, or Cyborg's. That could be funny. But, yeah, so there's a lot you can do with Scarecrow, I think. And when you get right down to it, it was fear toxin that was part of the inciting incident for the entire story. So it makes sense to keep him around and do more with him. And let Superman encounter him and go, it was your fear toxin, Scarecrow. And he's like, yeah, but I didn't do it. Joker fucking killed me. Does anyone know how I came back from that, by the way? Guys? Dick's dead, so it's fine to keep him gone. We can just give his weapon to Damian again. I guess that's fine. Though I do think that Damian shouldn't be Robin anymore. I mean, he's not in the story, but he shouldn't be Nightwing either. He should just be Damian Al Ghul, and go around with a League of Assassins outfit, because that'd be cool. 3 of these dudes are gunmans, so we need to pick one gunman. Now, Deadshot did fuck all. He's out. Deathstroke was actually cool in this setting, and then you got Jason. But Jason's underutilized too. You know, none of Superman's supporters are like, yeah, but Bruce, Joker killed Jason. No, like, you must understand where we're coming from. And hell, Jason would actually make sense being on Superman's side. Like, yeah, he actually did something about the Joker. Bruce, you fuck. But again, as I said in the Arkham Knight Wasted Potential, the Red Hood story loses a lot of its bite if the Joker's already dead. Because you don't get that scene with Jason about to kill him and Batman comes in to try and stop him. So that just leaves us with Deathstroke and Poison Ivy. Now, I'd like to see Poison Ivy actually get some decent characterization, but I don't trust NetherRealm to do that, and she was really wasted in Injustice 2, so she's going to get the boot as well. So these are our 7 Batman characters, for now anyway. Batman, Batwoman, Harley Quinn, Catwoman, Damian, Scarecrow, and Deathstroke. I'd like to see a new Batman villain be brought in to have a key role, but as is, let's just leave it with what we've got. Doomsday is another big muscle man, so he can go. Grodd is dead, so that's a convenient excuse to not bring him back. Although he's one of the few characters who actually utilise somewhat well in the story. Oh yeah, Arthur has to stick around because he's the Aquaman. I'm going to keep Oliver and Dinah because, well, I mean, you know, hashtag face of an angel. And Ollie has some decent quips. I just want them to do more with them this time. I mean, they did fuck all with them last time. I'm going to drop White Canary because I feel like it'd be weird to introduce her at this point. In the 5 years between the prologue of the first game and the main events, Green Arrow was killed by Superman, Black Canary gave birth to his son, then went on to fight Superman and nearly die, then she got sent to another universe where she fell in love with another Green Arrow, then they got brought back to this universe, and in all that time, Sarah Lance was apparently just hanging out in the background doing nothing. Yeah, let's not do that. Plus, I don't really like Sarah as a character anyway, because the Arrowverse really wants you to like her and they really push her on you, and I think after she stops being Black Canary, she's just obnoxious. So let's pick out a Flash villain. How about, well, I guess Captain Cold makes sense to keep him around. There's actually some interesting little character bits for him in Injustice 2, so he's worth keeping around. Pick one of the 2 Lantern villains. I feel like neither of these will come back. I kind of get the feeling that we're going to get a completely new one in Injustice 3, but we're going to pick one of these 2. Now, Sinestro is dead in the comics, so it is a convenient excuse to get rid of him, but Sinestro is a way better character than Atrocitus, because Atrocitus is just angry rage man. I wouldn't mind Dexter being his own character, but that's not really going to happen. So Sinestro should come back. I don't know how. Maybe have it be an alternate universe version. I mean, again, if they do a Crisis thing, it's easy enough to bring back a dead character, but a character being dead is a good enough excuse to not bring them back. Now, since we have an Iceman, we don't necessarily need Killer Frost, but I'll keep her in reserve for now. I shall move the back characters over to here, actually, just so that I can better keep track of them all. So I know how, so I have a better idea of what the difference in numbers actually is. I'll bring back Hawkgirl, because it's weird how we didn't get any kind of explanation of where she was in Injustice 2, especially when her ending in the first game claimed she was brainwashed into being a villain, and that was never addressed anywhere else. I'm going to say Darkseid should be a prominent character, because Darkseid is. Then... well, Brainiac's done. We don't need to bring him back. His time as the antagonist is over. Black Manta, let him be an antagonist. Maybe his villainy could help turn Aquaman into a good guy. You know, he's like, fine, I'll work with you this time again, Bruce, because while I was away last time, Black Manta took over Atlantis. The bastard. Dr. Fate is dead, and also Naboo is a huge arsehole, so no. I don't care that Wonder Woman claims she killed Ares in some of her intros in Injustice 2. I'm going to bring him back. Ares could honestly be a good main antagonist. But something that could have made Injustice cool could have been if each game picked a different hero's villain to be the main antagonist. You know, you could have the game with Brainiac as the villain. You could have a game with Ares as the villain. One that's about time travel with Reverse Flash as the villain. Or Grodd with his mind control and stuff. Black Manta could make for a decent primary villain. Sinestro, of course, or suppose it'd be Black Hand. You know, Injustice could have been this really cool series if it weren't just edgelord trash with no original ideas of its own. And because that's what they were setting up, I'm going to bring in Firestorm, Blue Beetle, and Starfire to be the Teen Titans. Starfire recruits these 2 as well as Supergirl to make the Teen Titans. And I'm going to bring back Raven. There's another character you could set up for the main villain, Trigon. And I can imagine this little story where Starfire leads her Titans team against the Trigon-possessed Raven. And she helps bring her back around because, you know, in the game it's not really clear if Raven joined the regime of her own volition or if it was Trigon's influence. I'm not sure how the comic handled it. I don't think the Trigon influence was even a thing until, like, Year 5, or, like, the last page of Year 5. Even though Trigon had been one of the main antagonists of Year 3, I think. You get a scene where Starfire leads Supergirl and Firestorm and Blue Beetle, and they're all going to go and confront Raven. Cyborg should be there, but he wouldn't be, because this is Netherrealm. And they go to confront Raven, and she's just like, Trigon seeds! And, like, possesses the other Titans. Like, Starfire manages to avoid getting taken over, but the others aren't. So then she has to beat them all up, and then beat up Raven. Like, if Raven comes back, and so does Starfire for Injustice 3, I guarantee that's going to be one of the chapters. I guarantee it. Now we need to decide between two other similar characters. You might not think Zatanna and Enchantress are all that similar, but they are both the magic characters. And while Enchantress is probably better known now because of the Suicide Squad movie, she's not as interesting a character as Zatanna. Zatanna's just more fun. She's a fun stage magician character, and that's way cooler than like ancient evil sorceress. Granted, I like the look of Enchantress in Injustice. It's a nice blend of the movie and comic versions, but I prefer Z. I think she's still alive in the comics. I think she just left around the time Constantine did after the Trigon fight. Lobo died in the comic but then came back, became a Green Lantern, but I don't really care about Lobo that much, so I'm gonna make this TBA again, and I'm going to slot him in there because I'm open to the idea of Lobo returning. I just have no connection to the character. General Zod was, well, he's dead for one in the comic, but he's a fucking tech user. He uses some blaster. I mean, I guess I want to make him distinct from Superman, but I feel like that wasn't the way to do it. He could have been a good Premier skin. I reckon if Zod hadn't been a DLC character in the first game, he would have been a Superman Premier skin instead of Bizarro. Now with the case of the Shazammers. I want Billy to come back, but again, he is dead. I think in the original version of this, I did put him on the Keep roster, but I'm going to put him in... Okay, I put him in TBA for now. Keep Black Adam because he's still an active part of the story. And just go on the assumption that if Billy gets cut, then the roster would include Mary Marvel or something like that, and would move forward from there. I'd like to know where Killer Frost has been, but we don't need two ice characters. Then again, seeing those two team up could be cool. And Killer Frost isn't technically a Flash villain, and the only Flash film we've got so far is Mr. Iceman over here. So the options are either Reverse Flash comes back and he's like, I'm still going to get you, Barry, and Barry's like, haha, nah mate. Or we have Wally come in to be Barry's successor for Injustice 4 when Barry dies in the Crisis, or whatever. And we also have Killer Frost in there because then we'd have room for another Flash villain. I put them in TBA for now because I really can't decide. It is tough. Getting the C, we don't need Atom. Yes, like Atom got so much focus because I forgot to put him in. And in the end, who cares? He's not even got a good moveset. Actually, you know what got me thinking, what made me realise that Atom was missing last time? It's because I was thinking about potential new characters you could add. What if they added more Wonder Woman villains? I mean, we've had Cheetah, we've had Ares. Who else could you add? What about Giganta? You know, she could do size changing stuff. Then I thought, oh yeah, Atom does that. Oh shit, where is Atom? So now we have the three Baldmans. Hang on. Bald and green, bald and green, bald and green. Bald, normally with green armour. Why is Cyborg like the one bald guy who isn't green in any way? And I guess that's where Grid comes in. Croc is also bald. I guess there's Doomsday and... You know what? I'm just going to move on. So Swamp Thing was kind of pointless and I don't care for his moveset. But on the other hand, I did get rid of Poison Ivy, so that is a decent enough reason to look at it and say they have somewhat similar concepts, so I could keep him around. I want Lex to come back. It could be the Prime Universe version, but I just want Lex in the game. Or they could do bullshit like in Smallville where he got cloned and the clone gets all of his memories or some bullshit in the very last episode. He's like, oh right, so I'm a good guy now, I guess. Lex would have been such a great main antagonist if he'd been playing Superman, you know. Like he'd been exacerbating Superman's villainy for the sole purpose of going, see, I told you he was evil. And then once Superman's taken down, he's like, I'm going to run for president. Everyone's like, yay, Lex Luthor, he helped to take down Superman. Fuck it, Prime Lex could come in and do exactly that. You just come in and go, hi guys, I'm still alive, haha. Superman almost killed me, but I've been secretly in a medical facility in a coma all this time, but I'm back and I'm going to be president. Now we have John Jones and the Swamp Thing. I think he has a real name, but I don't know. I don't care about Swamp Thing. I don't care for his moveset. I don't care for his character. Fuck him. And I'm not that attached to Martian Manhunter, so he's going to go in TBA. So at this point, it's mostly just down to what can they offer in terms of gameplay that isn't offered elsewhere. Billy's quite similar to Black Adam in terms of the concept. I can't say for sure how similar their movesets are, because I'm not that familiar with how a lot of the Injustice characters play. Partly because a lot of them don't get to be fucking played as in the story. Like, imagine if Injustice 1 and 2 both had a character who appeared in the story mode and never won a fight. You know, like Kano, how he was in all 4 story modes of MK and never won a fight and just lost every time he fought. Imagine if Injustice had that. Like, you have a character who loses twice in Injustice 1, if not more times, and then 3 times in Injustice 2, more than any other character in that game. Like, imagine if they did something like that dumb. Imagine how pathetic that would be. Luckily, they never did anything like that. But imagine if they did. If you put Lobo in at this point, would he play just like the Terminator? He's got his shotgun, he's got his like motorbike stuff. Damn. Now I think about it, I don't want that because Terminator isn't fun to play as in MK11. So buy Lobo. So that leaves us with these guys. I'm gonna put. Well, Jean is dead, so that is a good enough excuse to not bring him back. Suppose you could bring in Miss Martian instead and give her his moveset. Ed Boon loves Tekken, and that's one of the things Tekken did with Tekken 3, where they'd give movesets of old characters to new characters. And isn't DC just like perfect for that? You know, you could get rid of Superman, like have him just die because he's shit, and then replace him with Superboy. Wonder Woman could be ganked early on, and her moveset could then be given to Wonder Girl, and there's 2 of those that you could go for. Then you got all the different Batgirls, the different Robins, the different Flashes, Green Lanterns. I think the only reason they brought Green Arrow back rather than replacing him with Roy Harper, like they seem to set up in his ending for the first game, is because he wanted Black Canary back. And because of the comics, the way that had gone, it would have been weird if Black Canary had been missing all this time and showed up, or if they went with the comic version and she didn't bring her Green Arrow with her. I'm gonna get rid of Killer Frost, because again, we've got the Ice Person. In theory, it'd be better to keep Frost around and get rid of Snart, because Snart was in the last one and we don't know where Frost is. Then I'm going to put Martian Manhunter in. But because the numbers aren't equal, you know, if I put 2 characters in Keep, that's 1 extra character I could put into Keep as well. Frost can come back, which leaves us with one of these 2 has to go. Since Frost is around, we've technically got another Flash villain. Get rid of Thorn, and Wally West is going to make his debut. And then since we've got this extra slot, Martian Manhunter gets to stick around. Hooray! Oh shit, more green bald men. What is this? Why is like every fucking bald man in this setting green? Other than 1 or 2 people. Oh yeah, and also another... I keep noticing all these fucking green bald men. So that's our current roster. Obviously there'll be a few more characters added. So we've got Batman, Batwoman, Catwoman, Robin, or Damian Al Ghul, Harley Quinn, Scarecrow, Deathstroke, Superman, Supergirl, Wonder Woman, Cheetah, Hal Jordan, Barry Allen, Wally West, Solomon Grundy, Cyborg, Black Lightning, Aquaman, Green Arrow, Black Canary, Captain Cold, Sinestro, Lex Luthor, Black Adam, Zatanna, Raven, Blue Beetle, Firestorm, Starfire, Ares, Black Manta, Darkseid, Hawkgirl, Killer Frost, and of course the Martian Manhunter. I can't think of any characters I got rid of that I'd want to bring back. I think we've actually got a pretty decent selection right there, you know. I don't think we need to change anything. But yeah, so that's my roster. I hope you guys enjoyed this retake of this video. Hopefully the audio will save this time, because if it doesn't, I'm just gonna have to like die or something. Oh, and also, if you want to use this one yourself in its original proper tier list form, where it's just a normal tier list for all the characters, link in the description. Oh yeah, and here's the original version for comparison, just in case you were wondering.